But yeah, no, Arizona, it's an interesting story. And, you mentioned my relationship. So Jedd Fisch and I were on staff at Minnesota. I was a young guy. He came in, kind of took me under his wing, to be honest. His wife hadn't moved there yet. We hung out a lot. We talked a lot of ball, and I learned a lot from him. He had just come from the Broncos at that point. He had coached, I think, Jay Cutler there, and so we kind of hit it off. I mean, and anybody who knows Jedd knows the dude's a personality. Like he is just fun to be around. He's one of those guys that you, maybe you haven't talked to him in a year, but you see him and it's like, oh, we've known each other since kindergarten. So um, Jedd's just like that. So what's happening right now doesn't surprise me. Um, he came in he came in coming right after the COVID year, I think. So Sumlin, I think, was 0-5. So Jedd comes in, and all my friends, being down in Arizona, I got a lot of texts. Hey, what do you know about this Jedd Fisch guy? And I'm like, well, it's funny you say that. Like, he's a buddy. They're like, are we getting a good hire? Because a lot of people were like, where did this hire come from? He's friends with the AD or something. I don't know what it was. I don't know what the stink was about. Jedd has quite the resume. I don't know if he was coming from the Rams. No, he was the interim coach at UCLA, I think, at that point. I don't know. He was with the Rams before that.
So he did have a impressive resume, but unfortunately, it was also a giant resume where it's kind of hard to keep track.
Yeah, it
of.
was somewhere new
But
every year.
I remember when
That's
they
why his
I remember when they
network's
hired
so
him. It was
big.
just like a lot of the recruits were excited because it just one of the best pitches that college coaches can do is like, I've been in the NFL, I've seen the system, I know how to get guys prepared for the system. So
Yeah, he was the OC with the where was it? The Jaguars. He came up in the Texans organization and in the Ravens organization. Like, so here's a cool story about Jedd is he did not play high school football. So my good friend Tony Sortino, who is the assistant receivers coach with the Vikings right now, his dad, Tony's dad, was the head high school coach in New Jersey at the high school that Jedd went to. So Jedd came out and he's like, I want to be a football coach. Now, keep in mind, Jedd's family is all lawyers and doctors and all this stuff. And Jedd wanted to be a football coach. And he started doing this in high school. So Jedd's plan was he's like, okay, my next step after I learned this football from Coach Sorrentino, Tony's dad, was I am going to go and learn under Steve Spurrier at Florida. That was the mecca for him. And so he applied to Florida. He applied to one school and one school only because he was going to learn from Steve Spurrier. So, and it's funny because I was with Jedd before I was coaching at Dartmouth with a guy named Sammy McCorkle. This is a lot of things going into the story, but this is the coaching world, and this is great.
I'm
So
still with you.
Sammy was a GA Sammy was a GA. Now the head coach at Dartmouth, Sammy McCorkle, was a GA at Florida. Jedd goes to Florida to coach for Spurrier, but didn't necessarily have it lined up where he was just going down there and walking right into the office. So Jedd, being Jedd, was going to find a way in. And so he walked in the office and he would do anything. He would go and sit next to Sammy in class every day and be like, what do you guys need help with? Showed up to the office every day. And eventually you can't, especially a guy who has the talent, not only the willpower, but the talent and the smarts on top of it, you can't keep those guys out of it. And so he finds his way, gets in tight with Spurrier. Spurrier, when something comes up, is like, I've got the perfect guy for this in the NFL. And I can't remember who was the coach of the Ravens at the time, the guy who won the Super Bowl. Why am I going blank? But I think he ended up with him at the Ravens, and then the rest is history. So that's just who Jedd is. And he got them fired up at Arizona. And so the program was in dire straits. He comes in and, as he does, sold the vision to the fans. And they're like, it went from them being like, why did we hire this guy, to like, this guy is the savior of this program. And then they went out and had a 1-11 season. So that can put a damper on things. I've been there. When my first year in Minnesota, everybody was hyped up. We went 1-11. I think it was the first year that they played 12 regular season games. We were the first school to ever go 1-11. So I've been there. And then, but what he did is he stayed the course. He's consistent with his message. He's bringing in Gronk to, like, you talk about. I mean, Corey, you work in social media. He brings in Gronk to catch a football out of a helicopter to be like the highest catch ever made or whatever it is. He does it in practice. So all eyes are on them. He's bringing, positive things to the program. They go out, like you said, they land T-Mac. Now I'm talking with Jedd. Jedd came on the old coach's corner because I called up a lot of my buddies from coach's corner, and and they were gracious enough to come on. He was one of, I don't know, he was probably like the 5th or 6th or 7th guest. He was starting to pick up at that point. And, it was talked. It was just awesome talking to him. I hadn't talked to him in a while, but so he gets, this going, and then, he approaches recruiting the same way. He gets T-Mac, and he came on our signing day show. And I remember, and I text Gorney about this. I texted Adam Gorney the other night. I was like, did you know that Noah was a freaking dog like this back in high school? He's like, yeah, I knew he was a dog. He was like, he just didn't have like your usual measurables. He's like, but him and T-Mac have been playing together since middle school, or something like that. And so, and I remember talking to Jedd, and Jedd is great at selling his program.